Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive psychological crisis that's literally hiding in plain sight. Picture this with me, okay? A guy wakes up at 5:30 a.m., exactly like he has every single morning for the last 32 years. He starts the coffee, checks his phone, glances at the clock, and then, boom, it hits him. His entire routine, it's just gone. There's nowhere left to go, no office to commute to, no meetings on the calendar, zero urgent emails blowing up his phone. That relentless everyday noise we're all so used to, completely replaced by this abrupt, almost deafening silence. No job title. No one calling him boss. For the first time in decades, society just stops asking him what he does. That label that commanded respect, the exact thing that defined his entire place in the world, just vanished into thin air. And right there in that empty space, a really terrifying question creeps in. If I'm no longer my career, then who exactly am I? Look, we're not just talking about retirement or getting laid off here. We are looking at a silent, widespread psychological crisis, the total collapse of identity when work ends. When the one thing you've built your whole life around just evaporates, what's actually left? So, let's dive right into this. Section 1. America's Work Identity Trap. You gotta wonder, how did we get here? I mean, think about it. From childhood, we're asked one question more than almost any other. What do you want to be when you grow up? Not, who do you want to become? Not, what kind of life do you want to live? We are systematically trained to become our occupations. Now, historically, folks just had this mindset of, hey, I have a job. Work was just a tool to survive, you know? But today, the modern mindset is completely different. It's, this is who I am. Labor has morphed from a survival tool into our entire moral and social identity. We've made busyness a status symbol, exhaustion a sign of ambition. And honestly, we've basically turned human beings into personal brands.
Psychologists actually have a term for this whole phenomenon. They call it conditional self-worth. Basically, it's the deeply held belief that you only deserve love, respect, and an identity when you are actively achieving or producing something. And sure, this creates incredibly high-performing people, no doubt about it, but it also creates emotionally fragile humans. Studies actually show that people whose self-worth is totally wrapped up in career success are way more prone to severe anxiety and depression if they hit a sudden setback. And let's be real, consumerism completely fuels this trap. The underlying message we constantly hear is that your value equals your output, right? A bigger house, a nicer car, a fatter paycheck. So millions of us just keep running on this endless treadmill, not because we love it, but because we're terrified that if we stop producing, we'll just become invisible.
And man, social media has put this entire crisis into absolute hyperdrive. We're living in what you could call a performance economy. Just look at how it breaks down. You've got LinkedIn glorifying professional success 24/7, Instagram monetizing our personal lifestyles, TikTok rewarding constant visibility. And underneath the whole shebang, you have algorithms designed to reward relentless comparison. We are essentially forced to publicly broadcast our careers, meaning we start equating our online visibility directly with our real-world social value. So, when the career finally ends, a lot of people feel like their relevance completely ends right along with it. Which brings us to Section 2, the silent, emotional fallout. What actually happens when the applause stops? Now, what's really interesting about this is that we aren't just talking about a mental or emotional hurdle here. It's highly physiological. When people lose their workplace, they frequently lose their only real community, which throws them right into chronic loneliness. And the health risks associated with that? Staggering. We're talking heart disease, dementia, a weakened immune system, and severe depression. To put that into perspective, chronic loneliness takes a toll on your body equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is wild, right? It literally shortens your lifespan. So losing that workplace community isn't just a bummer, it's a severe physical health emergency. We are dealing with a full-blown social recession, not just an economic one. To really grasp the scale of this thing, let's look at 3 distinct faces of the crisis. First up, you have the factory worker. Let's say he gets replaced by automation after 27 years on the line. He doesn't just miss his paycheck, he loses his entire sense of purpose. He isolates himself in shame because suddenly he just doesn't feel needed anymore. Then think about the corporate executive. She retires with plenty of wealth and prestige, but almost instantly realizes she neglected every single relationship outside of the office. She's left with an emotionally empty life. And finally, the young professional, totally trapped in the cycle of constant online branding, terrified that if she stops producing content for even a second, people will just stop caring. This crisis,
It absolutely does not care about your income bracket, your industry, or how old you are. It's everywhere.
This identity collapse also plays out with some really unique emotional pressures across gender lines. Take the masculinity crisis, for instance. For a lot of men, identity is deeply tied to being the provider, the worker, the builder. So when the work stops, they often experience this emotional collapse in total silence. They isolate themselves rather than talking about how lonely they are. On the flip side, women often carry this unbelievably exhausting dual burden. They're pressured to maintain a flawless professional identity while simultaneously holding together this perfect caregiving identity at home. Society basically says, hey, do it all and do it all perfectly. But in both of these cases, society has completely failed to teach us how to separate our inherent human worth from our daily to-do lists. And kind of hovering over all of this is the crazy rapid advancement of technology. AI and digital systems are transforming entire industries overnight. Millions of people are terrified of becoming economically obsolete. But honestly, right beneath that financial anxiety is a much deeper existential terror. The question becomes, if a machine can replace my labor, what actually makes me valuable? This isn't just some economic worry about paying the bills. It is deeply psychological. It attacks the very core of how we've been programmed to measure our self-worth. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds into something hopeful: rebuilding life beyond work. So the crucial point here is that we have to actively separate our human worth from our job titles. We need to focus on what we call real identity. This is the core of who you are, completely beyond your resume. It's built on your character, your sense of purpose, your community, your values, how you serve others, and your emotional connections. We have to purposefully rebuild the foundation of who we actually are when no one is paying us. Think about it. We spend decades mastering corporate survival skills, things like networking, relentless productivity, and staying super visible in public. But when the career inevitably stops, literally none of that helps you. To stay emotionally healthy, what you actually need are human thriving skills. You need deep, genuine connection instead of just shallow networking. You need inner peace instead of endless productivity. And you need a solid private identity rather than constant public visibility. Basically, we have to learn how to actually live, not just how to achieve. So how do we actually fix this and reclaim ourselves? Well, first things first, rebuild your local community. Get involved in your neighborhood, jump into volunteer groups, or reconnect with the faith community. As humans, we psychologically require a sense of belonging that has absolutely nothing to do with economics. Second, we need to normalize having open, honest, emotional conversations about getting older and about our fears. Because shoving those emotions down, that's not strength. True connection is strength. Third, create an evolving purpose for yourself. Retirement shouldn't just mean you disappear. Mentor someone, teach a class, create art. I promise you, your human meaning absolutely does not expire just because your employment does. And finally, take a hard look and redefine what true success actually means for you. It really all boils down to this single, undeniable truth. A career can give you income, but it can never fully tell you who you are. That is the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer today. You are not your salary. You are definitely not your LinkedIn profile. Real, lasting success? It's reaching old age with peace in your mind, surrounded by people who love you, holding on to an identity that literally no economic system can ever take away from you. Because, look, one day, every single one of us is going to hear some version of the phrase, your role here is over. When that moment eventually comes for you, is it going to feel like freedom? Or is it going to feel like emotional extinction? If your entire identity exists strictly inside your career, that change is going to feel like a psychological earthquake. But if your roots go deeper into humanity and purpose, well, no company or algorithm in the world can ever erase you. I really want you to sit with this for a minute. Have you ever felt totally lost without your work? What actually gives your life meaning beyond your career? Share your thoughts with us, reflect on what true value actually means to you, and as always, remember to keep asking the big questions.